classwork that was assigned on Friday during class, and we just kind of worked on it through the class. And so what I'm going to do right now is the solutions to these. So here's the first one. We have negative 3x minus 1 plus 9x minus 2 minus 4x plus 8. Now, one of the things that's super important that you look at with these particular problems is the plus and the minus right here. What happens is students mistake this for this. They'll do negative 3x minus 1 times 9x minus 2 times 4x plus 8. Okay, and this is a much more difficult problem. What we're doing here is we're adding and subtracting. So be careful not to start multiplying all this stuff when we've got the multiplication and the addition and subtraction in there. So in my first binomial, and that's called a binomial because I have two terms, okay? In my first binomial, I've got negative 3x minus 1. Okay, there's nothing that needs to be distributed and nothing inside the parentheses that can be combined. So for my next one, I'm adding, so I don't need to distribute a negative sign, and I get 9x minus 2. I have just dropped the parentheses. That's all I've done. For my last binomial, I have a subtraction sign in front of it. So I've got to give that minus sign to the 4x, and I've got to give the minus sign to the x. So I have minus 4x minus 8. Okay? Now, I combine like terms. I have negative 3x, positive 9x, negative 4x. Okay? So, negative 3 and positive 9. I have one negative and one positive. Does the negative 3 or the positive 9 have the greater absolute value? Good. So my answer is going to be positive. Okay. What's the difference between 9 and 3? I'm sorry? Okay, but what, so you're subtracting their absolute value. So what's 9 minus 3? 6. Okay. So now I've got my 4x. So I have positive 6x and negative 4x. What has the greater absolute value? 6. Okay. They're opposite signs, so I subtract their values. So what would that be? Good. Okay. So now I have combined all of my x's. Okay. Now I have negative 1, negative 2, and negative 8. They are all negatives. So my answer is going to be negative. Because they're all negative, I add their absolute values together. So I've got negative 1, negative 2, and negative 8. And that is negative 11. Okay. So let's go to the next one. Okay. This is where we start exploring our exponent properties. We're exploring our exponent properties. The question you need to ask yourself, is there anything on the outside, okay, specifically an exponent, outside the parentheses? If there is, we have to deal with that first. We have to deal with that first. So I am looking here, and I am looking here. Is there anything that I need to deal with on the outside of those parentheses? No, there's not. Okay? So there's nothing that I have to deal with. So now I can deal with negative 6 times positive 8. So I'm going to write that down. Negative 6 times positive 8. Then I have x. What is that x raised to? What's that x raised to? Just this one right here. To the first power. When we don't have an exponent written there, it's to the first power. Okay? Then I've got this x to the third. Okay? Y squared times y squared. Okay? Negative 6 times 8 is negative 48. X to the first times x to the third is x to the fourth. Y squared times y squared is y to the fourth. Any questions on that one? How'd we do? Good? Okay. Okay, now this is what I was talking about. Do I have anything on the outside of the parenthesis that's got to be given to everything on the inside? Okay, and this one does. It's right here. Okay, that 3 belongs to everything inside that parentheses, including the negative 3. Some students forget to give that exponent to the number, but you have to. So this is going to be negative 3 to the third. Okay. Then this is going to be x squared times 3. A power to a power, we multiply the powers. Okay? Y to the fourth times 3. Okay? What is 3 times 3 times 3? It is negative 27. Tell me why it's negative. Excellent. Okay, so negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. Then we've got it times another negative. So it's negative 27. And we talked about this in class. Anytime you've got an odd exponent and you are raising a negative number to an odd exponent, you're always going to get negative. Yes?
Where are you getting that other, like, I see 3 and 3, but where's the third?
Okay, ask me that question one more time. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I see. Never mind.
No, you're okay. Okay, so you see this 3 right here,
Yeah.
and you see this 3.
Yeah.
Okay, so what that means is negative 3 to the third power. Okay, so negative 3 to the third power, what that means is negative 3 times itself 3 times. That's where I got it. Because if I had x to the third, okay, that would be x times itself 3 times. Does that help? Good question. Good. Okay, now I've got x squared times 3, because a power to a power we multiply. So it's x to the 6th, x to the 6th. And then I have y to the 12th. Okay? We good? Okay. This is when we FOIL. This is when we FOIL. Students typically do completely fine with FOILing. Okay? If they mess up at all with FOILing, it's the exponent rules. So, I have 5x times 4x. That's 20x squared. 5x times 9 is 45x. Minus 7 times 4 is negative 28x. Negative 7 times 9 is negative 63. Okay? How did we do there? We just FOILed. First, outer, inner, last. Okay? What can you tell me about these two terms right here? They are like terms. Okay? I've got one positive and one negative. Okay? So I'm going to have to subtract their absolute values. Is my positive number greater absolute value or is my negative? Positive. So my answer is going to be positive. And I am going to subtract my absolute values. Okay? 15 minus 8 is 7. 3 minus 2 is 1. Okay, so I have positive 17x minus 63. Now, sometimes students get gung-ho on combining like terms, and they want to combine the 20 and the 17. They are not like terms. I've got an exponent of 2 with this x, and I've got an exponent of 1 with that x. So they are not like terms. Okay? Can I go to the next screen? Okay. 3n minus 2 and 2n minus 3. I'm going to FOIL again. Okay, so I have 3n times 2n. That's my first terms. My outer terms are 3n times negative 3. My inner terms are negative 2 times positive 2n. And my last are negative 2 times negative 3. Okay? 3n times 2n is 6n squared. 3n times negative 3 is minus 9n. Negative 2 times 2 is minus 4n. Negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. Okay, and I know one of the things that we sometimes struggle with are positive and negative numbers. Do you see how both of those numbers are negative? Negative 9 and negative 4. So we add their absolute values and it stays negative. Okay? Those are the rules for adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers. Okay? Okay, let's look at our next one. X minus 4y squared. Okay, a very common mistake. So, common mistake. This is wrong. Okay, so this is wrong. The wrong way to do it is students square the x and then they square the 4y squared. Okay? Students do that all the time. And what they're remembering is what we did right here. Okay? How we gave that exponent to everything inside parentheses. What operations are happening here between the negative 3, the x squared, and the y to the 4th? What operations are happening there? Multiplication. Okay? That's why that rule applies, is it's multiplication. Here, we are not multiplying. What are we doing? Between the x and the 4y, what are we doing? Subtraction. This is a binomial. This is a binomial being squared. So what this means is x minus 4y times x minus 4y. You've got to write that out, and you've got to FOIL it. That's what this means. This over here is the wrong way to do it. It's incorrect.
I don't understand how you doing like the FOIL, like.
Okay, so it is our first term, okay? So I've got the first term of each binomial. Okay, what's x times x? Good, x squared. Okay, then I've got my outer terms. Okay? This is on the outside, and this is on the outside. Okay? So this term is on the outside of my problem. Okay? Those are outer. So I have x times negative 4y. Okay? So that's going to be negative 4xy. Okay? Then I have inner terms. Inner. That's negative 4y and positive x. These are on the inside of the four terms. Okay, so that's what I'm multiplying together. So then I get negative 4xy. Then I've got last. Okay, so I've got a term here because it's the last in my first binomial, and then I've got this term here because it's the last in my second binomial. So that is where FOIL comes from. First, outer, inner, last. So basically what you're doing is you're making sure this x gets multiplied by both of these. Okay, so x has to get multiplied by both of those, and your negative 4 has to get multiplied by both of those. Okay, that's what you're doing. Now this one, I can combine my middle terms. So I get x squared minus 8xy plus 16y squared. Okay? I think if you practice some of those, you'll kind of remember how to do that. Just let me know if you've got more questions. Okay, now for the biggie. Okay? This is a binomial times a trinomial. A binomial times a trinomial. So the first thing that I've got to do is I've got to take this x and I've got to multiply it times everything inside that trinomial. Okay? So I have x times 2x squared. Then I have x times negative x. And then I have x times negative 5. Okay? So I have taken that x and I've multiplied it times everything in that trinomial. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the 6. So I've got 6 times 2x, 6 times negative x, 6 times negative 5. Okay? So 6 times 2x squared, 6 times negative x, 6 times negative 5. Okay? X times 2x squared is 2x to the third. X times negative x is minus x squared. X times negative 5 is minus 5x. Okay. 6 times 2x squared is plus 12x squared. 6 times negative x is minus 6x. 6 times negative 5 is negative 30. Okay. Do I have anything that I can combine 2x squared, or x to the third with? Oh, I forgot my 12 right there. Oops. Do I have any? Yeah. I'm like, that doesn't seem right to me. And I wrote down the 2, but not the 1 in front of it. So it's 6 times 2 is 12x squared. from right here, this right here. Can I combine 2x to the third with anything?
No.
Nope.
You do it with 12x squared, which would be 11x squared.
It is. Okay, so let me write down 2x to the third. Okay, and you're saying negative x squared with 12x squared?
Positive 11x.
You got it. Perfect.
Then just 11x.
Okay.
Negative 11.
Good. You caught it. Good job. And then my last one.
Yeah, mine's.
Yeah, you got it. There you go. Okay, let's do our last one. Okay, this one is not too bad. We've got negative 70x to the fourth, y to the third, over 5x y squared. Okay, now when I have x squared times x to the third, what do I do with those exponents? When I'm multiplying like bases together, what do I do with their exponents?
Add them.
Good. Okay. Now, if I am dividing them, what do I do with my exponents? Yes, you are absolutely correct. Okay. So, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to deal with these numbers. Negative 70 and 5 are numbers. So we just divide negative 70 and 5. Okay, we're going to deal with those numbers first. So if you need to, you can do negative 70 divided by 5. Okay, one positive, one negative. So my answer is going to be negative. 5 goes into 7 one time. So then I'm left with 20. 5 goes into 20 4 times. Okay, so I've written too high up that I can't. That's 14. That's negative 14 right there. I've got tools up at the top that I'm interfering with. So I'm going to rewrite that down here. Negative 70 divided by positive 5 is negative 14. Okay? Okay, now I've got x to the fourth times, or divided by x to the first. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have x to the 4 minus 1. X to the 4 minus 1. Okay. Then I have y to the third over y squared. So I'm going to have y to the third minus 2. Okay. So my final answer then is going to be negative 14 x to the third times y.